Vecna was actually really scary in person, guys. Like, it's weird.
He was scary on the show, too.
He was scary on the show.
But he's cute in real life, though.
Welcome to Fan Take,
The show where you can't spell America without Erica.
but more specifically, we're going to be breaking down different fandoms and their impact on the advertising industry. I'm Taryn Aebli, the communication supervisor here at the agency.
And I'm Carolina, an operations manager, also at the agency. And joining us today, we have two very special guests who are brave enough to journey into the upside down. Tess and Gargi!
Woo!
Hi, my name's Tess. I'm an advertising major, and I'm also a production and account supervisor at the agency. And my fandoms include Pitbull, Lorde, Taylor Swift, Hunger Games, South Park, and Tim Robinson.
Hi, my name is Gargi, and I'm a poli-sci econ major, and I'm a production supervisor here at the agency, and my fandoms include Taylor Swift, Beyonce, Conan O'Brien, sitcoms, Jane Austen novels, and Trixie and Katya.
So Tess and Gargi are here to help us explore Stranger Things as a fandom and to explore the question, what made Stranger Things big in the first place?
Yeah, honestly, when prepping for this first episode, I really thought about what exactly made it big and like if there was any sort of marketing or anything for it. So I'm really curious to know, how did you guys discover Stranger Things?
Honestly, my mom introduced me to the show.
Me
found
too.
it. Really?
Yeah.
She was like, "Oh, you have to watch this." And at that point, I had kind of heard people talking about it, but not like this big buzz. And I was like, "Oh, okay, I'll check it out." And she's the one who got me onto it.
So for me, I was a huge supporter of the 80s music because everyone loves 70s music, which I also love, but the music aspect of Stranger Things really like looped me in. And that's why I started watching it. It was because I heard like the soundtrack and everything.
So like I agree with your point. I loved the music, especially from like the first season. That Should I Stay or Should I Go was like so like iconic, and it just like helped build the entire aesthetic for the whole show. So I think building off of this point of like the specific music, there were a lot of other factors that like built into this whole like 80s nostalgia. So what are some of those like specific factors that you think like drew people in?
Yeah. I can say that I think, well, first off, the bike riding, I think that's nostalgic to the 80s, but also for like other groups of people as well. It's nostalgic for anyone's childhood, which is why I think it loops so many people in. And then I'm trying to think of other things. I love the arcade vibes, the neon vibes of the entire show, honestly. And then also the words they use.
Ghostbusters!
The way they speak is so nostalgic. Not for me, I'm not, believe it or not, I wasn't born in the 80s.
What?
I know, it's crazy.
Wild.
I know. But I think a lot of that as well, so.
Yeah, I would say also like the wardrobe. I specifically remember like all the very bright colors and patterns too, and then seeing that in like people around me. People would start wearing like what they were seeing on Stranger Things.
No, I totally get that with the wardrobe point, but you know, it didn't really stick for me.
See, I also think, I was talking to Tess about this, that I think Steve Harrington brought back mullets for men. Think about it. Mullets were like, I think so. Like, men were all of a sudden like, oh my god, mullet vibes. It's because of the show. Or like, low-key, like, I don't know, he's got this big hair thing going, and it's my theory.
Say, did Steve have a mullet?
No, but he had big hair, and mullets were like also in the show, but I think definitely had to do, I don't know. It's my theory.
Steve, but also Billy.
Yes.
Billy definitely.
Thank you, yes.
Billy.
And we all loved Billy. We didn't love Billy, but we loved Billy.
I love to watch Billy.
We love to watch Billy.
Yeah, I totally agree that the whole like bringing back kind of the 80s, I feel like really lifted off. And actually we had some researchers at the agency do a little bit of research into this and how there's something called the nostalgia pendulum or something like that, where every 20 to 30 years trends from the 80s or whatever keep coming back into like fruition. So I'm curious to dive deeper into that. Did you guys see any kind of 80s resurgence back in like 2016?
I feel like scrunchies was a very, maybe like 80s, 90s,
Yeah.
but that was such a big thing, and now no one has a scrunchie. Like, I feel like now it's moved to very like simplified,
Y2K,
like,
yeah.
we're
But
getting to that.
like looking at the 2010s like as a whole, like there were a lot of like bright patterns going on. And like that's also reminiscent of the 80s, even though it's not the same thing. It's like same like font, but like one's like bolded and one's like italicized.
I think sweaters made a comeback. Honestly, sweaters made a comeback probably aside from the fact of Stranger Things, but I think the bright colors, the patterns, kind of the obnoxiousness of the 80s did come back in a lot of like, you look in like Brandy Melville, there was like a lot of obnoxious colors, which I love. Whereas, and it kind of goes against, you think about Brandy, I'm just selecting one store, it's like very blue, very neutral, but they also like incorporated those colors, I think. And then also a lot of these clothing stores had Stranger Things like focused, like not even merch, but like vibes.
So to briefly transition off of fashion, so just to observe something like culturally going on too, another strong like aspect of the show is obviously it's like roots in like nerd culture and like things that like aren't mainstream. I think that was also like a big part of what was happening in like those like 10s era, because that's like, that was my Tumblr era. We don't talk about her, but it was like when you really like I feel like people like our age, that's when we first started like discovering fandoms and discovering like the niche like subgroups of society, like where we could exist, like the kids and how they play Dungeons and Dragons. Thoughts?
I feel like they were so relatable, like the way that they're just living their lives and like hanging out with each other, playing these games, doing the things that like make them happy, even if it's not like what everyone else is doing. I feel like when people saw that, they were like, oh, this is cool. They're making it cool.
Yeah, I remember I didn't play D&D, but I had friends who did, and they were so excited when this show came out. They watched it before I did, and they were like, oh my god, have you seen this show? It's basically like based off of D&D, and it's like really cool. You guys hate on me that I play this game or whatever, but they were obsessed because of that. And I also remember teachers being like, I play D&D. Everyone thought we were nerds, but I love this show.
I think it's really interesting that you brought up that like you heard about it from that group of people. And I feel like that's something really important to bring up, is that we were looking into like kind of what made it big, how did it get big, was there really any like marketing that happened? And the real fact is there wasn't. Like Stranger Things was all talked about from word of mouth marketing, which I think is so interesting. I feel like it's one of the most successful I think I've ever seen.
I don't know, it's just a very unique case study because like especially for like big production companies like Netflix, like for all of their originals now, you see like this like huge marketing campaign, like Wednesday. Like they knew that was going to be a success, even though it's like based off like existing IP.
The Duffer Brothers did they did not expect this show to be so big. I'm pretty sure in an interview they were like, we only have one season, we're gonna give it all we can. Like they did not expect it because like the story is very unique. It may be nostalgic, but it can like, it's a hit or miss, and it was obviously a hit, but they didn't expect this either.
It was expected to fail.
Yeah.
We saw that actually. It was like 100% expected to fail just because it was so like niche.
So I also feel it's really interesting that like because there was no marketing, it was so like word of mouth, like you had to know, and if you knew, you knew. People were trying to be first to discover it and to talk about it, and you were kind of like the cool kid if you knew about Stranger Things.
Yeah, and I think it's funny because we were all going through it like at the same time. So technically like no one was really first. It just felt like you were first because of like the lack of marketing. So I don't know. I remember like having those conversations too. Like, oh my gosh, I watch it too. And there's kind of like a thought of like, really? Like you watch that too?
Super interesting. It's almost like there was just like this big like boom of like everyone discovering it at the same time.
Yeah.
Super interesting.
Yeah. And like as a company too, like as Netflix, if you will, put yourself in the shoes of Netflix. Okay. Like how does that like affect your like marketing strategy at that point to just like have an overnight success? Like you must have to change every single thing you've planned up until that point, because now you got to take care of this.
I think, well, you look at Stranger Things marketing, they're so secretive. They're so like, I feel like as a fan, they give us so little. And that might not be the case compared to season 1, but I seriously do feel like they don't give us anything. And that is the marketing. Like, that's what I think. Obviously, it's improved in season 1 because it was such a hit, but I think they play into it. I'm going to be honest. Like, I'm always like wanting more.
So obviously season 1 was a super hit success with its word of mouth campaign. But what do you guys think kept that momentum going into its now almost 5 seasons?
I feel like the storyline from season 1 to season 4 was just so interesting and so not where I thought they would take it that it kept pulling me in every single time. And I just remember like seeing the last season, the final reveal of like the plot twist. I was so shocked. I was in the airport and like fully gasped out loud watching it. Like it just drew me in so much, and it was so not a place where I thought they'd take it.
Yeah, I think for me it was again the music. I talked to this about like with Tess. I think that every season has an iconic song.
Wait. Let's go through. Let's name them.
Oh, okay.
Okay,
Yeah.
season
So,
one.
should I stay or should I go?
Yeah.
Season 2 was. Wait, what was season 2?
I think
It
season 2 was mainly more like costumes.
I think it was Every Breath You Take by Police.
Oh.
And then
wait, I
season 3 was Never Ending Stories.
Yeah.
Season 4 was Running Up That Hill by Kate
Real.
Bush.
Yeah.
So
And
yeah.
the one Eddie plays.
Master puppet. Oh my god. I don't know.
Yes. Master Puppets.
I just thought it was puppets. I'm gonna be real. I think that was what drew me in, and then obviously like they would play into the music. They'd make playlists. I think so. Like I don't know. I think that's what drew me in, and like just like the '80s definitely has a vibe overall. There's so many like different types of music, and I think you can see that on the Stranger Things from season 1 to 4. Like you can see the difference.
Okay.
Yeah, I really feel like they took the whole. They didn't do any marketing, as we know, in season 1, but I feel like season 2 through 4, they really just took it and ran with it. And like you said, like created those playlists. Like Spotify, what was it, like season 2, made like specific playlists per character. And then
Like I remember I was there.
Yeah.
I took the little quiz. I got my character playlist. I did an assignment on it for class because I thought it was so cool.
And then in season 4, they did what would bring you out of Vecna's lair or something, and that was like a personalized playlist based on what you listened to. I thought that was so cool.
So question, what song would save you from Vecna?
It depends on the vibe.
It does depend on the day, really. I'm like thinking of one, and it would not be the same next week.
Yeah. Wait, what would you be?
Well, right now, I think mine would be Homemade Dynamite by Lorde, but like the mashup with her and Khalid and Post Malone and SZA just hits right now.
Real.
Yeah, that's really real. That was great. I don't know. Honestly, I think Rush by Troye Sivan. Okay? It will bring me out of anything. I can be in the worst mood ever. Literally, like, all as bad as being under Vecna. And if you put on Rush, I'm in it. So.
I'm sorry, cut the cameras. It would also, I think, save me.
Right?
Yeah.
It's so good.
If I saw Vecna and I heard, oh, feel the rush, I'd be running.
You would feel the rush and you'd run.
You would feel a rush.
You'd run.
I have multiple. It depends on the vibe. I think, like, obviously any Harry Styles, but specifically Sign of the Times, I think would. Like, We Gotta Get Away From Here. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I would just
I
start
do have to get away
crying.
from here. You're right. It would take me out. It'd be like you know, like when Max was like levitating, like that's how that song makes me feel. Yeah. So that's one. But if not, definitely some like emo night type song, like Mr. Brightside, for sure. I feel like that's always a banger.
I think I've got a niche pick here. It's Tragedy by the Bee Gees. I think if I heard that, I would be able to like run a 5K like marathon. I know those are not the same things, but like I would be running.
Up that hill.
I would be running up that hill.
You'd be really
I'd
running
be
up that hill.
gone.
Absolutely.
This would be like my main character moment. I'm
Yeah.
like boom, boom, like booking it.
Yeah.
So obviously the Spotify playlists were extremely successful and clearly engaged us, but I think there's a lot of other marketing tactics that they use to keep the momentum going. So I'm curious what other ones you guys remember, what other marketing campaigns?
I feel like another really engaging marketing tactic that they had was the Stranger Things experience. I saw that they did one in New York.
Yeah, I saw that you went to one, Taryn. How was that?
Yeah, it was so fun. It was in Milan. When I was studying abroad there, I actually went with another agency member, Dahlia. And it was really cool. They like immediately brought you in almost to like the title and like credits with like the red outline or whatever with the music playing. And then they like had a whole like Demogorgon type thing. They also had like obviously a whole like store, but they also took you into the high school and they took you into the ball or like the prom or whatever.
the snowflake dance.
Yeah, the snowflake ball. Yeah,
no.
they took you into that, and then they also like had the whole lights. Like they had Will's entire like family room with the lights and everything flickering, and it was like crazy because they had all these tiny little details, like a record player with Master of Puppets like on it and stuff like that. So they just all had all these little knickknacks and stuff, and it was just like really great. I actually got like this sweatshirt from it, which was like super cool. It was incredible. It was so fun. I really felt like it just dove me into the world. It was really fun.
I'm so jealous. I wish.
And like building on the immersive experiences, I think this is like really interesting because it's Netflix's like only opportunity to do something of this like scale. Like when you look at some of the major other like players in entertainment right now, you think of like Disney, and like no one can like beat them in terms of like immersive experiences. You've got the whole like Star Wars Galaxy's Edge, like the Marvel campus, and then Universal has Harry Potter and like Wizarding World. I think this is like Netflix's like way of trying to get into that like immersive experience like game. I don't know how else to say it, but
no, for sure. I can definitely see that. Like now that I think about it, you bring like that's a great point, because Netflix doesn't really they bring us great shows, but you never think of something immersive, and also for all ages. I feel like you have to say that. Like Harry Potter, so wide, like an age range, and even Disney. Let's be real. We have our Disney adults to our Disney kids, and I think Stranger Things is like the exact same thing. So that's a great point. Yeah.
I think something that's really important to note is the fact that Steve Harrington was actually supposed to die and not come back after season 1, and the power of the fans really, really kept him alive, and the writers wrote him back into the show. So I'd love to kind of hear your guys' thoughts about the power of the fans for this specific fandom.
I feel like they have so much say, and like Gargi was saying, we're not given a lot, but I feel like we are listened to. Like I feel the same kind of thing was supposed to happen with Eddie, and I feel like so many people love him. I love him. I think we both do. Like he just needs to be in the next season. I feel like they are actually considering doing that.
See, I don't know if they will. I love Eddie. I love Eddie. But I feel like, I don't know, his death is really important for those characters to like move from there. It's really important. We had Barb. That was super important. I wanted Barb to come back, but it was so important that she didn't, because it was so much of Nancy's guilt that played into season 2. And even like her entire drive of why she's so like interested in this entire thing, it is because of Barb. So I think it's gonna kind of ignite something in some of the characters that were closer to Eddie, like Dustin, even Steve. Like they had this like cute little banter. I think that's what that's gonna do. I might get hate, but yeah, those are my thoughts.
But do you think that the marketing of the show is gonna, at the end of the day, override the creative power like of the Duffer Brothers? Because Eddie, his whole character, he created so many like memorable moments this season, from like the Hellfire Club shirts to Master of Puppets to just like him as a character. People loved Eddie. And like Stranger Things is much bigger now than it was when Barb died, unfortunately. I would love to see Barb come back. But I think there's a real case to be made here that Eddie might come back just because Netflix says make him, because that's what drawing people in. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't know. I think if he hadn't died, seeing how the fans would have been affected. That's what I think. I think like, do you think maybe his death drew them in even more? They had this emotional connection and it was broken. So, because that's what pulled me into it. Loved Eddie, he was great, and then I was like, oh my god, wait, he's dead. He was so cool. That's what kind of makes you look back at the character and be like, oh my, same thing with Barb. Like, low-key, like, Barb was annoying. Why was she always on her? And then you look back and you're like, wait, she's dead. She was just trying to be a good friend. I think, I don't know, he very well might come back, but I think the show will be fine with keeping him dead because, again, what happened with Nancy, and there are other characters that, even Alexi, everyone loved Alexi. And like, when he died, we were like, oh, we love it. He was literally from the opposite side. Like, he was literally like from the bad side, but we all loved him, so.
See, I feel
Yeah.
like the screen time they gave Barb and Alexi versus Eddie is so different. Eddie was on so much more to like kind of a Steve Harrington season 1 level, where I feel like they'll keep him for next season.
Have you guys seen that theory that he might turn into like a vampire or something because he was like attacked by all those
Birds. Whatever.
bats, birds,
Yeah.
vampire bats at the
Yeah.
end? It
I
like
just-
swarmed him and we never actually saw him die. And so people think that he's gonna like turn into a
my God.
vampire.
But how do they know that those were vampire bats?
I heard that he will become like king of the bats.
Yeah.
That's what I heard.
So speaking on power of the fans, we are going to test you two today as representatives of the Stranger Things fandom by playing a little game of Who Said That Stranger Things quote? Okay, Tess and Gargi, the rules are very simple. We are going to read you a Stranger Things quote. You will buzz in by going, "Ah," and then say, who said that quote? And the person with the most points at the end of the game wins. Are you ready?
Yes.
Absolutely.
And the game starts now. Friends don't lie.
11.
If anyone asks where I am, I've left the country.
Mike.
Correct. Nobody normal ever accomplished anything meaningful in this world.
Jonathan.
It's incredible. Okay, I'm on a curiosity voyage and I need my paddles to travel. These books are my paddles.
Dustin.
Oh my god. There's more to life than stupid boys, you know.
Max.
Sorry. Touch my butt, I don't care.
Dustin.
Yes, you're also nerdy. It makes me physically ill.
Erica?
You know what this half-baked plan of yours sounds like to me? Child endangerment.
Erica.
Emotions have been shared, boundaries have been set, order has been restored.
Murray?
No, Tess, steal.
Will?
Incorrect. Hopper. My fingers are like arrows, my arms like iron, my feet like spears. Resist and I will end you.
Murray.
And if you need to reach me again, don't.
Murray?
Yes, she's our friend and she's crazy.
Dustin?
Yes! And by a landslide, Gargi wins!
Congratulations!
Wait, what do I win?
I don't know.
You can have a bag of chips.
Can I do one? Yeah?
Oh! I won that too.
And back to the show. I want to dive a little bit into the future of Stranger Things, and obviously now that has been impacted by the strike. So Tess and Gargi, do you guys want to dive a little bit into the strike and how it will affect the final season?
Season 5, like the whole creation and release of it has been pushed back like at least a year, maybe more. We don't really know, but definitely a year. And I feel like all of these actors coming into Stranger Things, like going back, like no one knew who Millie Bobby Brown was. And I feel like the writing and the fact that like they didn't know the people really pushed the season, and like the actors are aware of that. So they've been really like they've been protesting, they've been out there on the streets campaigning with everyone and really active about it, because I feel like this is a cast and a team that really supports like their writers, like in the past, future, and present.
I think that the writer's strike is also leading to more anticipation towards season 5. But with that being said, like Tess mentioned, I think these actors, the entire production of Stranger Things, I think is very invested in the strike, as they should be. And I don't know, it's going to be interesting to see how that kind of changes the timeline of Stranger Things, like for the show itself, as well as these actors' careers. Because this is their last hurrah. Like season 5 is going to be obviously like a lot of emotions happening for their characters, for the actors, but then they also have to go through this writer's strike, which is obviously very devastating as well.
I feel like, season 1, season 2 was like a year apart, and then obviously like COVID happened, and then now it's the strike, and like now it's been kind of 2 to 3 years in between seasons, and obviously that's almost honestly a little concerning as a fan, because the kids started when they were 12 to 14 years old, and now they're 19 to 22. Like, how do you guys think the characters kind of will play being so old now, I guess?
I feel like the writing of just the plot in general might change a little bit. Like they might mature, especially after the ending of season 4. I feel like they really can play with that and like move them to be an older cast, older characters and all of that, to kind of adjust for like the fact that all of like this time and the space between seasons is making the actors like look older.
But even going off of that, like the kids have always been mature. I mean, even in season 1, that's why I fell in love with them. It's because they had like a, pardon my French, but they had a potty mouth like I did. They swore like sailors, and I was like, oh, I did that when I was 13. Like, yeah. So I feel like they've always been willing to like push that level of maturity and like, keep them like very, very authentic.
Yeah, I think that if you look at Stranger Things and the cast members and the characters, it's separated into 3 different groups, which is like the adults, the parents, then there's those teens like Nancy, Steve, Eddie, Robin, and then there are the kids. I feel like as we get older, these groups are gonna kind of like, there already are alliances between those 3 groups, and obviously relationships is the whole point of the show. But I think there's going to be a lot of collaboration between these 3 groups. Like, there's going to be a lot of growth together, because they've gone through all of these deaths, and now they have to, because of external circumstances, they have to, they're aging. They have to address that. So I think that's what I expect to see, is to see these 3 different groups, age groups, kind of come together and really instead of, being in their 3 different groups, just,
Merge.
I don't know, yeah, like you never see like Lucas and Joyce interact much, but I think I'm expecting that to happen, especially with like what happened with Max and stuff, like they can relate, so.
Yeah, I also feel like as audience members and fans, we're growing up a little bit with them. So I feel like I wouldn't expect them to be the exact same as they were. Like, I kind of want to see that change a little bit.
Yeah, I think it'll also be really interesting because, I mean, Millie Bobby Brown has said herself that she's kind of over it. Like, she's, like, ready to move on. And honestly, I kind of feel bad because she's, like, kind of being held back by this 5th season, obviously for right intentions. But she's, like, season 5 is having to, like, wait longer and longer and longer. And poor girl, like, she's ready to move on from 11.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I'm gonna not completely compare it to Emma Watson, but like both of them were kind of like introduced the same way, like from a very young age, and we're seeing them grow into like very intelligent actors and people. And it's also interesting with Millie Bobby Brown because she's also a producer right now. She's making her own movies. And I think that the way that she says goodbye to Stranger Things will be like amazing, but yeah, it does suck that she has to wait so long.
Yeah, I mean, she's been in both Enola Holmes movies. Like, she's really grown as an actress, I feel like, and she has, like, big places to be.
Yeah.
And even, like, some of the other kids, like Gaten Matarazzo, I saw him on Broadway. Sorry, I had to flex. I had to. But he was
Sweeney Todd.
in Sweeney Todd. He was just so amazing. And, like, that's, like, an avenue that a lot of the Stranger Things kids have, like, actually explored. Because, like, Caleb started on Broadway. Who
Sadie.
else? Yeah, Sadie Sink.
Yeah.
She was in Annie. So as we're talking about this uncertain 5th season, a big question I personally have is, are people still going to care by the time it comes out? I mean, you said it yourself that they're already pushed back like at least a year, but we don't know if it's going to get pushed back again. So are people still going to care in like 2025, 26, 27 if Stranger Things is still around?
Honestly, I think they will. I feel like the press from the strike and them being so supportive at the strike is very much like reminding people of what they're there for, what they're waiting for, like what they're fighting to get back to, honestly, is to be working on Stranger Things, finish it strong. So I feel like people will still be interested. I feel like there's still a lot of conversations to be had around Stranger Things.
Yeah, absolutely. I think people will. Another answer is that these actors, these young actors, are still in very big projects. Like Sadie Sink was in Taylor Swift's music video. That was a huge deal. That kept people thinking about her. Same with Gaten Matarazzo. Like they're like, oh my God, he's on Broadway now. Like it's, So I think a lot of that also has to play into it, into why people will be reminded is like, oh, they're seeing them in other forms of media when Stranger Things is gonna come back. We're still invested. So, and I think that goes for all of the actors that are in the, I mean, Winona Ryder, like, who's gonna get sick of her? Sorry. Like, I'm never gonna get sick of her.
Me either.
Yeah. So I think that has to do with a lot of it. And also, the Duffer Brothers are constantly saying, oh yeah, we're thinking about a spin-off with Erica. I think that's gonna keep people invested. They keep on like sneaking these little things, but not giving us enough, and it makes me mad, but it's doing its job. It's keeping me looped in, so.
Yeah, I think this is also gonna be really interesting because I feel like it could turn into like an Avengers, a Harry Potter, a Friends, where these actors were so young when they did it that there's going to be big hype about a reunion like 20 years down the line. I think that's going to be huge.
Absolutely. Totally agree. I'm thinking about that now and it's still happening. I'm like, I need it right now. And they haven't even come out with the last season, so.
Tess and Gargi, thank you guys so much for coming on to Fantake, and thank you so much for watching.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, this was so much fun.
So to keep up to date on this series, to see what fandoms we talk about next, be sure to follow us on all of our social platforms at the agency at UF.
And always remember, friends don't lie.
The answer to a never-ending story.
Feel free to join in. Reach the stars.